2025 is here. The world is louder than ever, opinions flying, distractions everywhere, and everyone shouting for attention. But let me tell you this, the loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful one. The question is, are you going to keep pouring your energy into noise, or are you ready to turn inward, sharpen your focus, and build the life you know you're capable of? Today, we're going to solve one of the biggest problems people face in 2025's how to focus on yourself, stay silent, and let your results do the talking. Because if you don't learn this, your time, your energy, your dreams will keep slipping through your fingers. But if you do, you'll own your future. Silence is power. Think about that for a moment. In a world that never stops talking, in a society that's louder than ever before, silence is the rarest form of strength. You see, most people believe that power comes from being heard, from being seen, from being the loudest voice in the room. But the truth, real power doesn't need to scream. Real power doesn't need to convince anyone. Real power is found in silence. 2025 has become a battlefield of noise. Every second, notifications flash on your phone, opinions flood your feed, arguments rise in the comment sections, and people are screaming for attention. The world is shouting at you, telling you how to think, how to live, who you should be, and what you should want. And if you're not careful, that noise will bury your voice, your vision, and your potential. Silence isn't weakness. Silence isn't retreat. Silence is discipline. It's the ability to stand tall in a storm and not be shaken by the winds of opinion. It's the strength to know what you're building, what you're becoming, without the need for validation from the outside world. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat with yourself in complete silence? No distractions, no phone, no television, no social media, just you and your thoughts. For many of you, that's uncomfortable. You reach for your phone the moment the quiet shows up. You escape into noise because silence feels unfamiliar. But here's the truth, silence is where clarity is born. Silence is where you meet yourself. And in 2025, clarity is the rarest currency. If you don't claim silence, the world will claim your focus. And when the world owns your focus, it owns your future. You'll end up chasing trends, chasing opinions, chasing the approval of people who don't even matter. But when you learn to value silence, you create space for vision. You create space to hear your own voice again. You create space for focus so sharp it cuts through the chaos. I want you to imagine something. Imagine a lion in the wild. Does a lion roar all day long to prove it's the king? No. It sits in silence. It observes. It conserves its energy. It waits for the right moment to strike. That's power. That's silence. And in the same way, you don't need to announce every move you're making, every goal you're chasing, every battle you're fighting. The world doesn't need to hear your roar every second. Save your voice, save your energy, move in silence and let your results roar for you when the time is right. Silence is not just about keeping quiet, it's about mastering your energy. Think about how much energy people waste in arguments that don't matter, in gossip that doesn't move them forward, in defending themselves to people who don't care about their success. All that noise, it drains you. But when you choose silence, when you refuse to be dragged into every battle, you conserve your power. And that power is what you'll need to fuel your vision, your dreams, your goals. Look at the greatest achievers in history. They didn't waste their lives shouting back at critics. They didn't spend every waking hour explaining themselves. They understood the power of silence. They knew that energy spent on noise was energy taken away from building greatness. You want to know why most people never achieve their potential? It's not because they're not talented. It's not because they're not intelligent. It's because they're distracted. They spread their energy thin across noise, across meaningless conversations, across trying to prove themselves to people who don't even matter. But if you learn silence, if you embrace it as your weapon, you'll separate yourself from 95% of the world in 2025. Silence allows you to listen, and when you listen, you learn. You see, the person who's always talking isn't learning. They're too busy proving. But the one who listens in silence is growing, observing, and preparing. And when the time comes, they move with precision. I know this isn't easy. Silence feels unnatural in a culture that rewards noise. People will tell you, speak up, post more, share more, stay relevant. But the truth is, relevance is not about volume. It's about impact. One action, one breakthrough, one undeniable result. That's worth more than 1,000 empty words. Silence gives you control. When you speak less, you reveal less. You protect your vision. You protect your plans. Because let me tell you this, too many dreams die in public before they've had a chance to grow in private. You don't have to announce your every move. You don't have to broadcast your grind. You don't have to prove anything to anyone right now. Build in silence. Prepare in silence. Work in silence. And when it's time, let the results do the talking. The truth is, silence is not just about sound, it's about alignment. It's about shutting down the noise in your environment and the noise in your head. Because let's be real, the loudest voice you hear is often not from the outside, but from within. That voice of doubt, that voice of fear, that voice of insecurity. And when your life is filled with external noise, those inner voices get amplified. But when you choose silence, you quiet the chaos long enough to hear a deeper voice, the voice of certainty, the voice of strength, the voice of who you're meant to become. In 2025, people are drowning in information but starving for wisdom. And wisdom doesn't come from shouting, it comes from listening, from observing, from paying attention to the whispers of your own intuition, and that only happens in silence. So if you truly want to master this year, stop wasting energy on the noise, stop explaining, stop defending, stop broadcasting every move. You don't owe the world an explanation, you don't need their approval. What you need is clarity, and clarity only comes when you step away from the chaos and step into the power of silence. Silence is where transformation begins. It's where you separate yourself from the masses, where you sharpen your vision, where you strengthen your focus, where you reclaim your energy. It's where you step into your true power. And when you live in that power, you don't just chase your future, you create it. Focus on your own path. In 2025, this is more critical than ever. Because let's be honest, most people aren't living their own lives. They're living through the lens of comparison. They're living through the noise of other people's opinions. They're living in the shadow of someone else's definition of success. And the moment you allow that, in the moment you hand over your power, you lose yourself. The world has become obsessed with watching others, scrolling through endless feeds, comparing lifestyles, bodies, cars, vacations, and bank accounts. Everyone is so consumed with what everyone else is doing that they forget the only race that matters is their own. But here's the truth, comparison is poison. The moment you compare your journey to someone else's highlight reel, you rob yourself of focus, of gratitude, and of progress. When you focus on your own path, you reclaim your energy. You stop bleeding time on things that don't belong to you. You stop measuring your worth against standards that were never designed for you. Because your story is yours. Your journey is yours. Your purpose is yours. And the moment you fully own that, you step into a power most people will never experience. I want you to think about this. How many dreams have been killed because someone looked to the left or the right and thought, I'm not far enough ahead? How many people gave up on something extraordinary because they compared their chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20? And yet, if they had just stayed focused on their own lane, if they had just kept moving forward, they would have built something remarkable. In 2025, distraction has become the #1 enemy of progress. You don't lose because you lack talent. You don't lose because you don't have potential. You lose because you're distracted. Every time you look outside instead of inside, you weaken your focus. Every time you chase someone else's definition of success, you abandon your own. And every time you let someone else's journey dictate your worth, you throw away the gift of your own path. You've got to understand, your path was never meant to look like anyone else's. The speed may be different. The timeline may be different. The challenges may be different. But that doesn't make it less valuable. It makes it yours. And the moment you stop trying to match someone else's pace, you find your rhythm. And rhythm is where greatness is built. Picture a runner in a marathon. The moment he starts looking over at the runner beside him, he stumbles. His form breaks. His rhythm shatters. And in that moment, he loses speed. Not because the other runner was faster, but because he broke focus. That's exactly what happens in life. You don't fall behind because someone else is ahead. You fall behind because you stop paying attention to your own race. Your job in 2025 is to put on blinders, to lock into your lane, to channel every ounce of energy into your growth, your progress, your goals. Because if you do that, if you stay laser focused, you'll look back a year from now and realize you've built something unstoppable. But here's the challenge, staying focused in a world designed to steal your attention. Every ad, every post, every notification, every headline is a hand reaching out, pulling you away from yourself. That's why focus is no longer just a skill, it's survival. If you can't master focus in 2025, you won't build what you're capable of building. You've got to ask yourself, what do I really want? Not what do my friends want for me? Not what do my parents want for me? Not what looks good on social media. What do I want? Because until you answer that with absolute clarity, you'll keep chasing borrowed dreams. And borrowed dreams will always leave you empty. When you focus on your own path, you create a shield against distraction, a shield against doubt, a shield against envy. You stop measuring your progress in likes, in followers, in comments, and you start measuring it in growth, in discipline, in consistency. That's the only scoreboard that matters. And let me tell you something powerful. When you truly focus on yourself, the competition disappears. You stop being intimidated by other people's success because you realize their success has nothing to do with your potential. Their win is not your loss. Their growth does not take away from your growth. In fact, the only person you're competing with is the version of you from yesterday. If you're better today than you were yesterday, you're winning. If you're moving forward on your path, no matter the speed, you're winning. And the truth is, most people don't even know what their path looks like because they're so busy living someone else's. They're chasing money because someone told them that's what matters. They're chasing status because they think that's what gets respect. They're chasing popularity because they're desperate to be seen. But none of those things will ever fill you if they're not aligned with who you are. Focus means stripping all of that away until you're left with what's real for you. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean you ignore others. It doesn't mean you don't cheer for others. It doesn't mean you don't learn from others. It means you don't lose yourself in others. It means you take inspiration without imitation. It means you stay grounded in your lane while still recognizing there are other lanes on the track. Every time you turn inward, every time you pull back your attention from the outside world and bring it back to your mission, you build momentum, and momentum compounds. One day of focus becomes 1 week becomes 1 month becomes 6. And suddenly, while everyone else was distracted, you've built a life they can't even imagine. But here's the reality: focusing on your path requires courage. It means walking away from the noise. It means saying no when everyone else is saying yes. It means being misunderstood. People might call you selfish. They might call you obsessed. They might not understand why you're not chasing the same things they are. And that's okay, because focus is not about being liked. Focus is about building. Focus is about becoming. Focus is about honoring the life you've been given and the vision you've been trusted with. In 2025, you've got to be ruthless with your attention. Guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, and where your energy flows, your results grow. If you spend your focus on distractions, on comparisons, on noise, you'll waste another year of your life. But if you lock in, if you stay committed to your path, if you channel everything you have into what truly matters, you will create something unstoppable. Discipline over distraction. If there's one thing that will determine who rises and who falls in 2025, it's this. Because let's be real, this is the most distracted generation in human history. We carry the entire world in our pockets. Notifications are buzzing, news is flashing. Apps are designed to hook you, to steal your attention, to drain your focus. And every time you give in, every time you surrender to the endless pull of distraction, you weaken your discipline. You weaken your potential. You weaken your future. Discipline is the foundation of freedom. People think discipline is restriction, that it's chains, that it takes away your life. But the truth, discipline is what gives you life. Discipline is what gives you control. Discipline is what allows you to say no to what doesn't matter so you can say yes to what does. Without discipline, distraction owns you. And when distraction owns you, your dreams die in silence. Look around you. People say they want success. They say they want health. They say they want wealth. They say they want a better life. But watch their actions. Watch how easily they're pulled away. One scroll, one notification, one mindless habit, and they've lost another hour of their life. Hours that turn into days. Days that turn into months. And before they know it, the year is gone. Not because they weren't capable, but because they weren't disciplined. Discipline is not about perfection. Discipline is about direction. It's about saying, I may not control every moment, but I control enough of them to move my life forward. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you cast a vote for your future self. You cast a vote for the life you say you want. The problem is, most people live reactive lives. They wake up and the first thing they do is check their phone. They let the world tell them how to think, how to feel, what to worry about. And once you start your day in reaction, distraction runs the show. But when you live with discipline, you flip the script, you own your morning. You own your time, you own your focus, and when you own those, you own your life. In 2025, discipline is the ultimate competitive advantage. Talent alone won't save you. Intelligence alone won't save you. Even passion alone won't save you. Because without discipline, all of those things dissolve into nothing. Discipline is the bridge between what you want and what you actually create. Without it, your dreams remain fantasies. With it, your fantasies become reality. Think about the people you admire. The ones who've built empires, who've achieved greatness, who've changed the world. Do you think they got there because they never felt the pull of distraction? No. They got there because they mastered the art of discipline. They trained themselves to focus when it was easier to quit. They trained themselves to stay the course when it was tempting to wander. They trained themselves to put in the work every single day, not just when they felt motivated. Discipline is doing what you said you would do long after the feeling you set it in has left you. And that's where most people fall short. They rely on motivation. They wait to feel inspired. They wait for the right moment. But discipline doesn't wait. Discipline acts. Discipline shows up whether you feel like it or not. Discipline doesn't care about your mood. Discipline doesn't care about your excuses. Discipline only cares about results. Distraction is the thief of greatness. It looks harmless, it looks small, one scroll, one episode, 1 hour wasted, but it compounds. And suddenly you're not just distracted for minutes, you're distracted for months, you're distracted for years. And the scary part, most people don't even realize it until it's too late, until they look back and wonder where all the time went. But discipline also compounds. Every small act of discipline adds up. Every time you say no to distraction and yes to focus, you build strength. And that strength grows, that strength stacks, and before long, you've created momentum so powerful that distractions no longer have the same pull. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your discipline. That's the truth. The world in 2025 rewards the distracted. Every platform, every app, every algorithm is designed to capture your focus. But here's the secret: they can't take it unless you give it. They can't control your time unless you hand it over. They can't own your mind unless you surrender it. And the way you protect it is through discipline. Discipline is not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things consistently. It's about identifying what actually moves the needle in your life and cutting everything else out. Because not everything deserves your attention. Not everything deserves your energy. Not everything deserves your time. And the moment you start living that way, you step into a level of power that most people will never know. Think about a laser. Light, when scattered, is harmless. It's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. But when you focus that same light into a beam, it becomes powerful enough to cut through steel. That's discipline. Discipline is taking your scattered energy and focusing it so sharply that nothing can stand in your way. The reason most people are miserable isn't because they're not capable. It's because they've traded their discipline for distraction. They've traded their potential for comfort. They've traded their future for the quick hit of dopamine that comes with every little notification. And the truth is, you can't have both. You can't have the life you dream of and the distractions you cling to. You must choose. When you choose discipline, you begin to respect yourself, because every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you build trust, you build confidence, you build certainty. But every time you give in to distraction, you break that trust, you weaken that belief in yourself. And once that's broken, everything else crumbles. You need to understand that discipline is not about punishment. It's about alignment. It's about aligning your actions with your vision. It's about saying, I may not control the world, but I control me. And when you truly control yourself, you're unstoppable. In 2025, the winners will not be the loudest. They will not be the flashiest. They will not be the most talented. The winners will be the most disciplined. The ones who chose focus when others chose distraction. The ones who chose consistency when others chose comfort. The ones who stayed the course when others wandered. Because discipline is not just what you do. It's who you become. You become a person who doesn't break when the temptation shows up. You become a person who doesn't fold when it gets hard. You become a person who doesn't chase every shiny object but stays locked in on what matters. And when you become that person, there is nothing you cannot create. Results speak louder than words. In 2025, this truth is more important than ever. Because we live in a time where talk is cheap, where people love to announce, to broadcast, to promise. They talk about what they're going to do, what they're building, what they're planning. But here's the problem: most never follow through. The world is full of noise, full of words, full of empty declarations, but at the end of the day, nobody remembers what you said. They remember what you did. Think about it. How many people do you know who've told you their big plans? They said they were going to start a business. They said they were going to get in shape. They said they were going to change their life. And yet, when you look at them months later, nothing has changed. Their words were loud, but their actions were silent. That's the reality most people live in. And the reason is simple. They think words are enough. They think intention is enough. But life doesn't reward intention. Life rewards execution. Your results are your reputation. Your results are your credibility. Your results are your proof. And in a world where everyone is trying to convince you of who they are, the ones who actually produce results don't need to convince anyone. They don't need to beg for attention. They don't need to scream for recognition. Their results speak for themselves. You see, talk can inspire people for a moment, but results inspire people for a lifetime. You can tell the world who you are, but when your results show it, no one can deny it. That's the difference. Words are temporary. Results are permanent. Too many people waste their energy proving themselves with their mouths instead of proving themselves with their lives. They defend their dreams to people who don't believe in them. They argue with critics. They try to convince others of their worth. But let me tell you something, your energy is far too valuable to be wasted on words. Stop explaining, stop defending, stop announcing, just do, just build, just execute. And when the results come, they'll speak on your behalf louder than any words ever could. The reason most people talk instead of act is that talking feels good. Talking gives you a false sense of accomplishment. You tell the world your big goals and you get a hit of validation. People clap for you, they cheer for you. They tell you how inspiring you are, and suddenly your brain feels like you've already done the work. But here's the danger, you haven't. You just traded the real reward for the illusion of progress, and then you wonder why nothing changes. That's why the most powerful move you can make in 2025 is silence backed by relentless action. You don't need to tell the world what you're doing. You don't need to post every step. You don't need to explain your hustle. Just let the results show up and let them do the talking for you. Think about the greatest athletes, the greatest leaders, the greatest builders. They didn't have to stand on a stage and convince you they were the best. You could see it, you could feel it. Their results shouted louder than their words ever could. That's the level you want to get to. A level where you walk into a room and your results precede you. Where your presence carries weight because people know what you've built, what you've achieved, what you've overcome. In 2025, people are addicted to appearances. They want the look of success without the discipline of success. They want the applause without the sacrifice. They want the followers without the work. And so they keep talking. They keep posting. They keep creating an image. But an image without results is empty. It's fragile. It's an illusion. And eventually illusions collapse. But results, they cannot be denied. Results silence the critics. Results erase the doubts. Results command respect, whether people like you or not. Because even your enemies can't argue with your results. They may not love you, but they cannot deny what you've built. So the question is, are you chasing recognition or are you chasing results? Because one will fade and the other will last. If you're chasing recognition, you'll always be enslaved to people's opinions. You'll always need their applause to feel valuable. But if you're chasing results, you're free. You're grounded. You're focused. You don't need their approval because your work speaks for itself. Results are the ultimate equalizer. They don't care where you came from. They don't care who doubted you. They don't care how much noise surrounds you. If you put in the work, if you show up with discipline and consistency, the results will come. And when they do, no one can take them away from you. You have to understand, words may inspire the crowd, but results change the world. And right now in 2025, the world doesn't need more talkers. The world doesn't need more dreamers who never execute. The world needs doers, builders, people who are willing to put their heads down, stay focused, and let their work echo louder than any speech. Stop telling people what you're going to do, show them. Stop announcing your moves. Make your moves in silence. Stop trying to convince people of your value. Let your results prove it, because results don't lie. Results don't exaggerate. Results don't need validation. Results are the truth. And when you live by this, when you dedicate yourself to producing undeniable results, you won't need to beg for opportunities. Opportunities will find you. Doors will open for you. People will respect you not because of what you said, but because of what you've built. That's the power of results. The reason this matters so much is that too many people get stuck in the cycle of proving themselves with their voice instead of proving themselves with their actions. They argue with the doubters. They try to win over the haters. They spend hours justifying themselves. And every second they spend on that is a second stolen from building results. You don't beat doubt with words. You don't beat hate with arguments. You beat both with undeniable results. In the end, your results are your legacy. People won't remember the promises you made. They won't remember the speeches you gave about what you plan to do. They will remember what you actually did. They will remember the life you built. They will remember the impact you created. They will remember the results that came from your discipline, your focus, your silence, and your relentless action. That's why in 2025, the smartest move you can make is to stop wasting energy on noise and put it all into execution. Build something real. Build something undeniable. Build something that doesn't need explanation because it speaks for itself every time someone looks at it. Because when you do that, You rise above the noise, you separate yourself from the talkers, and you step into the rare category of people whose lives are proof, whose actions are evidence, and whose results speak louder than their words ever could. So here we are: silence, focus, discipline, results. These are not just ideas, these are not just words. These are the pillars that will define who rises and who falls in 2025. You've heard it all. Silence is power in a world that cannot stop talking. Focus is your weapon in a world that wants to drag you into comparison. Discipline is your anchor in a world built to distract you. And results are your voice when you choose not to waste your breath on noise. This is your time. This is your year. The world is louder than it's ever been, but you don't need to be loud. You need to be strong. You need to be focused. You need to be relentless. You need to live in a way where your life becomes the proof. Don't tell them who you are. Show them. Don't explain where you're going. Walk there. Don't defend your dream. Build it. Let your silence protect your vision. Let your focus fuel your path. Let your discipline create your momentum. And let your results roar louder than any voice in the room. Because in the end, the world doesn't listen to the noise. The world listens to what cannot be denied. And what cannot be denied are the results of a life built on power, clarity, consistency, and execution. This is your moment. This is your future. This is your time to step into the highest version of yourself. And when you do, when you truly live this way, you won't just change your year, you'll change your life forever.